the day after my last release.
Test, test. Hello? I finally got a new mic again, and by new mic I mean I'm using my old mic, except I finally got it to work again, hopefully, so I hope it sounds good. Hi! I actually have a question for you guys. So, I'm working on new emotes for this stream, and I'm either thinking of doing like myself as like one character, and for the other characters I'm either thinking of doing Pokemon emotes or a bunch of different cats. I'm leaning towards cats because I love cats, but I play a lot of Pokemon music and Pokemon's really cute too. So, but the thing is, like, everyone does Pokemon emotes already, and I'm starting to think that Pokemon is a little bit like millennial core, you know what I mean? So I do think a lot of people do Pokemon emotes. I mean, the style is going to be really cute. I don't want to share this style yet because I want them to be a surprise, but it's going to be cute. So yeah, I'm either debating between Pokemon or cats. Would you guys rather use Pokemon emotes or a bunch of different cat emotes? Cats? Pokemon? Cats? Either cats? I mean, you guys know how much I love cats. There's one sleeping right behind me. Aww. I think a lot of people have cats and Pokemon. Like, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of people have both. I think cats and Pokemon are probably two of the most used emotes across like every streamer, but they're used because they're good. Like, they're cute. They're just cute. So, which Pokemon specifically? They would be cute Pokemon. I would only pick cute ones, like fairy type or like, I don't know, cute Pokemon. Actually, if I picked Pokemon, I was kind of thinking of doing like all normal type Pokemon. I don't know why. Like, as much as I wish I was like a fairy type Pokemon, I feel like I would be a normal type Pokemon. Here, let me show you the vision. Like, I feel like we're all normal type Pokemon at heart. You know what I mean? Let me share with you my vision. Actually, I was talking with Annie and Luna, and this is her favorite Pokemon. So cute! Can you believe this Pokemon is a normal Pokemon? Anyway, I am debating between Pokemon or cats, and I think we're gonna go with cats. Maybe I'll throw in like a couple Pokemon for fun. Okay, Chad, if you were a Pokemon type, what Pokemon type would you be? What would be your Pokemon type? Me personally, I think I'm a normal type Pokemon. I'm like an Eevee. I'm like an Eevee. I'm a pre-evolved. I'm like an Eevee that can evolve into anything, but doesn't want to. Because of decision paralysis. Oh my gosh, guys, there's a paywall update. Look at how cute I am. Like, what the F? Look at me. There's a paywall update. So me, Janet, and Celine. Oh my god, it's so weird saying their actual names. Me, Smitty, and January spent hours last night at the paywall together off stream. Just dressing ourselves and looking slay. Isn't it cute? So cute. Oh my god, so cute. We actually spent 3 hours in there. But, I'm like still, oh, Celine said I should use this as my crime outfit. You did paywall update without us? Yeah. I couldn't help myself. Well, I mean, oh, and here's a new and improved version of Snow Bunny. Look at this shirt. This shirt is so cute. I like how like the back details are like this. And you can't really see, but there's like slits over here and it buckles at the front. I think it looks really cute with this skirt. Yeah, I did paywall update without you guys. But in my defense, it's because my girls, we were having a girl time. But guys, I don't think you understand. We were so locked in at paywall. Like me, January, and Smitty were so locked in that we stood dressing ourselves in silence. I don't think you understand. Like, we didn't even talk to each other for those hours. We literally did not even talk to each other. We were just dressing ourselves. We were so locked in. And then randomly, every like 10 minutes, we'd be like, oh, that color's really cute. Or we'd be like, that outfit looks so good on you. Like every 10 minutes. And then we'd go back to being locked in. So I don't even think it would have been fun to stream because we barely even interacted with each other.
Right away, Kimmy starts talking about finally getting her old mic working again, hopefully. From my several years of closely following Kimmy and watching nearly every live stream she's ever done in that time, I can say with complete confidence that none of the microphones I've ever seen her use are cheap or have any real or significant issues with quality. To my knowledge, they're typically microphones multiple other big streamers use as what is essentially an industry standard. I've personally never been picky about what microphone Kimmy uses, and whatever microphone Kimmy uses in any context has never held any particular meaning to me. With how simply she also casually brushes over getting it working, I find it hard to imagine the process of doing so was much more involved than simply plugging it in. At most, maybe also playing around with her mixer and or operating system settings a little, which was obviously something she could have done long ago if she really wanted. Since it's working at all and she didn't have to open it up and inspect or modify the internal hardware and make modifications or send it in for repair or replacement, clearly it wasn't any kind of serious issue, meaning that there already seems to be rather clearly some kind of secret, deeper meaning behind the scenes that I've been completely unaware of this whole time regarding specifically which microphone she uses, at least for the purposes of her live streams on Twitch on her main channel. I really don't think it's a coincidence that Kimmy went from...
Kimmy, we miss your ASMR. Oh, ASMR is coming back. It's coming back. It's coming back. I think having a little break from ASMR has been good for me too, because it kind of let my creative juices marinate in my head for ASMR. Sometimes when you don't take a break, then you get like creative blocks. So you'll notice that I kind of like focus on one thing, and then I take a break from one thing, and then I focus on another thing, and I take a break from the other thing. And those breaks help my creativity like keep fresh. Does that make sense? I don't know. It makes sense in my head.
Just a couple weeks ago, when she probably thought I'd give up on defending myself with this podcast, the moment I managed to intuitively work out exposing some kind of false narratives about me in relation to pets through very little information or evidence, to now, after I've extremely meticulously called her and everyone else from my past out in public on this podcast in a clearly extremely serious manner, the way I have.
The new mic sounds better. Yay! So the other mic I was using was for ASMR. This mic is actually used for like podcasts and stuff. This is the Shure SM7B.
I'm not complaining. I've already meticulously, completely, sincerely described my position on ASMR and ASMR type or ASMR related content and concepts. I'm just meticulously providing objectively irrefutable evidence these things happened for the record, so nobody can ever even remotely reasonably or sanely attempt to act like I'm some schizo idiot hallucinating things, or like I'm some manipulative piece of garbage lying and making up events that I end up going off on a bunch of rhetoric in relation to, as it exposes the truth of my life and how horribly I've been lied about and mistreated for the last several years and ultimately my entire lifetime by literally every person that's ever been at all significantly close to me somehow. As for me personally, currently for this podcast, I literally just use my cheap cell phone's microphone to record. I then transfer that audio recording to my computer to edit it to clean up random noises and stuff using basic but effective audio editing skills I have. I then take that finalized audio and combine it in a video editor along with any evidence I'm presenting using my relatively basic but effective video editing skills to produce the final product I end up uploading to my podcast's YouTube channel. It's not like anyone asked me, but I feel it might be worth mentioning in case there's some kind of misrepresentation about me in this regard. You know, since there clearly has been an unbelievably immense amount of lies about me being passed around as if it's truth, so I figure I should probably extremely thoroughly address topics that might arise as significant if I'm going to bother saying anything at all here. I'd really rather not waste any time by neglecting to mention potentially important things and then probably being pushed to do so later anyways if I want to go anywhere actually worthwhile for me in this conflict. I find it rather curious that Kimmy specifically mentions that she suddenly decided to switch away from a microphone she herself designates as for ASMR to a microphone she specifically happens to mention is used for podcasts and stuff. It's like she's trying to imply there's a relation between the integrity and various other strong and positive qualities I'm demonstrating about myself in this podcast and what Kimmy's somehow trying to communicate with the content she created very recently on her live stream I just showed a clip from where she's utilizing that different microphone. Like, as if before, she for some reason felt extremely compelled simply to be calming or something, and now she's more focused on speaking the truth of the reality of her life somehow, or something like that. I also find it kind of strange how she put such emphasis on the word Shure when mentioning the brand of her microphone, and would like to take the opportunity to state that I have no involvement with or understanding of any behind-the-scenes context that it seems is likely present that made her feel particularly compelled to express herself in that way there. Anyways, immediately after that really strange initial dialogue about her microphone, we see Kimmy starts talking about new emotes she's working on getting in place as her subscriber emotes for her Twitch channel. She goes into extremely strange detail regarding making a decision between cat-themed emotes or Pokemon-themed emotes. This especially stood out to me, particularly because in all the years I've followed Kimmy, she's neither been so seriously conflicted between different themes, nor went into such serious dialogue asking her viewers for their opinion on which they prefer. She hasn't ever even really felt compelled to even simply attempt to justify her choices in regards to emotes in general, especially not to the point where it almost seems like she's defensive about it. And the whole thing was only made even more strange since, based on what she herself said, it seems she's already made up her mind on having at least some extent of emotes related to both. Meaning it's not so much her asking her viewers to actually help her make a decision, but rather more so trying to probe for information about her viewers in relation to the topic, and also perhaps deviously facilitate and or actively participate in the perpetuation of false narratives about me that benefit from the topic being presented at all the way she brought attention to it. I've never kept it any kind of secret or at all been trying to be confusing about the straightforward fact that I don't care what emotes Kimmy adds to her Twitch channel. It does not, never did, and never will influence my position in relation to this conflict. There's absolutely no emote she could ever possibly upload that appeases me somehow or forces me to shut up or change my position at all. I don't benefit in any way, shape, or form from any of her emotes specifically being anything or specifically themed based on anything. These things are also all equally true about emotes on anyone else's Twitch channel. I don't subscribe to Kimmy's or anyone else's Twitch channel. I haven't in many years, and I have no need, desire, or willingness to even consider doing so ever again with the way things are. I never even talk in anyone's Twitch channel in general on my one and only Twitch account, and I haven't in years. These things certainly aren't because I'm waiting for some emote to be added to anyone's Twitch channel or even the platform as a whole or any extensions for it. Unless I get the kind of connection I want and deserve with Kimmy in a timely manner, I genuinely have absolutely no need, desire, willingness, or intent whatsoever to subscribe to anyone's Twitch channel or even simply start talking at all in anyone's Twitch chat ever again. While I have to interact with the Twitch platform the bare minimum on an as-needed basis in order to check up on Kimmy's content on it, I'm strongly opposed to using it as a whole as things are. I never even did anything on the platform that'd break any rule worthy of a permanent ban, yet I was randomly permanently banned out of nowhere one day on my main account, as if someone with connections to Twitch staff was pulling strings and actively trying to suppress and sabotage my ability to express myself on that platform, so I couldn't attempt to combat false narratives being presented about me directly and without fear of then being liable to endless ban after ban for what would become ban evasion. For many years now, I've felt extremely heavily unjustly antagonized, demonized, and ostracized from the entire Twitch community. I have no need or desire to attempt to force myself into a place I feel extremely hated and unwanted. From my perspective, it's just all the more reason for me to be convinced on how warranted going down the extremely dark path in life really is for me if Kimmy's really going to push me with her continued resistance to the only kind of actually healthy connection we could ever possibly have. To this day, the one account I still do have on the Twitch platform is technically ban evading, meaning it's subject to being banned pretty much whenever anyone with any real power on the platform feels like it. Even if I didn't have that to worry about, I still would rather not subscribe to anyone's Twitch channel or even just interact with anyone's Twitch chat at all, or even access the platform at all, any more than the absolute bare minimum on an as-needed basis to gather evidence to defend myself from damaging false narratives perpetuated about me entirely against my consent, wishes, and best interests through content posted on it. It still doesn't sit right with me at all how I had my main account randomly, abruptly, permanently banned for no good reason, with no real explanation, essentially on someone else's whims, and clearly based on extremely false narratives about me that the administration still fully neglects to take any accountability for facilitating, or any real or adequate corrective action as a result of learning the truth about. I don't care what Pokemon or type of Pokemon Kimmy or anyone else considers themselves or others to be. I never have, and I'm quite certain I never will. I've never even tried contemplating on the topic, and it doesn't interest me to start either. I don't hate Pokemon or inherently discriminate against anyone that particularly likes it, but I don't have any particular liking of it or fixation on it either. I never have, and I'm quite certain I never will, and I have no issues with that whatsoever. I don't identify with any Pokemon or Pokemon type, and I never have. I don't clearly understand what narratives are being pushed through this devious behavior, but clearly there's something extremely shady going on behind the scenes in relation to this, and, at least certainly from my perspective, I'm obviously intentionally being left extremely in the dark about it all. I just know that, especially with the way things have been with this conflict, with me constantly being continually disrespected, neglected, abused, suppressed, sabotaged, and denied of the connection with Kimmy that I want and deserve in a timely manner, I do and will forever have absolutely no desire, interest, or willingness whatsoever to ever entertain any kind of response to this dialogue that might even suggest I benefit at all from even really attempting engaging with it, or ever at all wanted this kind of extremely strange, shady response instead of the direct communication from Kimmy that I've been extremely clearly, explicitly, many times now, repeatedly stating I'm after and absolutely unconditionally require in a timely manner, or I'm seriously, absolutely, unconditionally heading down the extremely dark path in life and never having any doubts, regrets, second-guessing, or hesitation ever again about the destruction that will most certainly be occurring to Kimmy's and likely also multiple other people's lives in that case. I don't really know or understand what it means when Kimmy says she feels everyone is a normal type Pokemon at heart, and I therefore cannot reasonably confidently say I agree or disagree with the assertion. Nor do I care for ever even attempting seriously engaging in shady dialogue about clearly deeper concepts through indirect and confusing notions that likely also ultimately facilitate somehow misrepresenting the essence of the message being conveyed below the surface. What I will say, however, is that if this was some kind of devious, underhanded way of at all trying to invalidate the obviously considerably strange but absolutely completely sincere entirety of my last release on this podcast, or any other release on this podcast at any point in time, I most certainly always have and always will absolutely, unconditionally, unwaveringly, wholeheartedly, extremely intensely, thoroughly disagree. I recognize some things I've said on this podcast are very strange, but that doesn't make them any less the truth, and I stand on that absolutely unconditionally. With every bit of my mind, heart, and soul, I absolutely, extremely, strongly do not at all resonate with Kimmy's personal dilemma of feeling like an Eevee that can evolve into anything but doesn't want to because of decision paralysis. I do not and have never been struggling at all with decision paralysis, especially when it comes to this conflict or situation or whatever you want to call it. I absolutely, completely, genuinely don't, never did, and never will at all care, even in the slightest, about how many different kinds of opportunities might be available to me if I were to be willing to tolerate at all somehow compromising my integrity. I'm absolutely, unconditionally, extremely, thoroughly uninterested in and unwilling to ever tolerate any of them at all. I've never been trying to leave Kimmy with decision paralysis at all either, nor do I or will I ever at all benefit from her at all continuing to be left as such in relation to her connection with me. I'm once again extremely clearly reiterating that I want and require her to promptly begin direct communication with me and pursuing the kind of relationship I've extremely clearly stated I've always been after with her. The reality that her life will absolutely unconditionally be extremely brutally destroyed soon if she continues to refuse is not at all me attempting to put her in decision paralysis. It's simply the reality and an extremely clear expression of how sincere I really am about everything I've been saying in this podcast, for better or worse. From Kimmy's dialogue about extremely intensely messing around with outfits in Grand Theft Auto role-playing for 3 hours straight, literally within less than 24 hours after my last release on this podcast came out, it seems specifically Celine and Janet have been going to extremely great lengths for probably years behind the scenes to keep the reality of my life and who I am extremely severely misrepresented. I know this extremely clearly because from my perspective, absolutely nothing I've been doing should have at all led to this extremely strange result. Yet somehow, these two women extremely strangely have suddenly popped into heavy focus in Kimmy's life in this manner within just a few hours of my last podcast release. Whatever Celine and Janet have been involved in that somehow makes them so extremely relevant to what I've been having to deal with, I know for a fact that I've been extremely consistently so extremely distant and detached energetically from both of them ever since I've known they exist, that they must have known with absolute certainty that what they're involved in conspiring against me through is extremely morally reprehensible and certainly thoroughly against my consent, wishes, and best interests. There are obviously multiple possible reasons why they'd do such things, but I'm really not interested in complaining, arguing, or bickering about contemplating on the possibilities, nor trying to get an explanation or apology of any kind out of either of them. It only matters to me that the reality is they clearly have had malicious involvement in conspiring against me extremely seriously for likely multiple years at this point, and further, what I'm going to do about it now that I know. Because I'm most certainly not going to just let whatever it is continue happening. As far as that goes, all that's actually worth addressing is, now that I'm publicly addressing this matter how I am, the likely preceding kind of behavior and explanation that they probably were planning to get to attempt to provide or imply somehow of one or both of them secretly genuinely having been feeling extremely attracted to me and secretly been competing against Kimmy and obsessing over me, trying to get my attention and affection because they presumably thought they'd be a better or more desirable partner for me than Kimmy would be. Or something like that. So, clearly, I should just take the initiative to make sure I've made it extremely clear how I feel about that kind of possibility. Seeing that Celine and Janet very possibly actually find me extremely attractive and probably have a part of them that really wants a romantic and or sexual relationship of some kind with me doesn't change anything at all for me, was never going to, and will never. Absolutely, unconditionally. Their approach towards it is what I'd consider unacceptably toxic and disrespectful and intolerable for a foundation for any serious and healthy kind of such a relationship based on my standards I've had since before I even knew Kimmy exists. And I've never been and will never be at all interested in or willing to tolerate any kind of such a relationship that's unhealthy and or not serious with anyone. Like I've said, my extremely thorough lack of desire to have children with anyone ever for any reason is far from any extent of lack of desire for or capability and willingness to pursue a serious and healthy romantic and or sexual relationship. Even if either or both of Celine and Janet attempt to communicate relevant feelings or desires towards me much more clearly and intensely now and try to leave me with considerably less room to question their feelings or intentions, such is not something I at all want, deserve, or benefit from. I'm genuinely, absolutely, thoroughly, unwaveringly uninterested in and unwilling to engage in or tolerate anything romantic or sexual with Celine or Janet ever, just like the same is true about all of the rest of Kimmy's associates. I've already explained in great detail, just in my last release on this podcast, the one and only other person I've ever had at all serious romantic and or sexual feelings towards besides Kimmy, and how and why that connection clearly is so extremely painfully, thoroughly doomed beyond repair, pretty much absolutely unconditionally, and why regardless, I'm thoroughly, absolutely, unconditionally unwilling to even consider putting even the slightest bit of energy into ever again at all attempting to repair it either, when I was never at fault at all for it being broken, but my life was made such a hellish nightmare for so long because of that person extremely badly mistreating me and slandering me because they're too toxic and immature to ever act like an even remotely actually decent human being towards me. It's not my fault for distancing myself from and being unwilling to shoulder the responsibility to pursue or repair a damaged connection where the other person extremely clearly only ever wanted to do essentially the absolute bare minimum to manipulate others and control my life with massive lies about the reality of the connection. And if she even really had any genuine desire to be sexually intimate with me at all, only ever wanted to extremely badly abuse any sexual desires I have for her to facilitate her endlessly perpetuating those false narratives about me and controlling my life in ways she, without even the slightest bit of doubt, absolutely must know from how I've treated her are extremely clearly, extremely, absolutely, thoroughly unpleasant, undesirable, unfulfilling, unrewarding, and detrimental to my existence in practically every way possible, and she's perpetuating entirely against my consent, wishes, and best interests. It's not my fault that I don't see psychopaths abuse as love and extremely toxic, manipulative, controlling psychopaths trying to keep me stuck and denied of a life I've worked so hard to build for myself, extremely brutally refuse to ever show me any real respect or actually ever act like even remotely decent human beings towards me. It's not my fault that people refuse to face reality, even when I go to unbelievable lengths to make it extremely clear in front of the entire world what the truth really is and how badly other people insist on ignoring, denying, misrepresenting, and abusing it in various ways. And it sure as hell isn't indecisiveness or toxicity or any other negative trait about me that I maturely speak the truth with integrity and authenticity and don't refrain from sharing certain things out of fear that people might try to twist it and act like it's some kind of admission of guilt or confusion or some other garbage, when in reality it's just me being an actually mature adult about things and being strong enough to take accountability for anything I should and refuse to take accountability for anything I shouldn't. I'm intentionally refraining as much as possible from giving any of the pieces of trash from my past any attention because I don't want or need or owe them in any capacity to ever offer them any kind of personal, professional, or otherwise benefit for how they've been so extremely horrible towards me. They're genuinely massive pieces of garbage, and nobody should give them attention or any kind of benefits or rewards for basically forcing me to give them some kind of recognition of their extremely negative impact on my life that they've had. But I'm not trying to come off disingenuous or something and start going off on them again, so I believe that's enough to make my position on them clear enough at this point. In case for whatever reason it wasn't clear enough already with how I talked about them on my last release on this podcast. There was one point in time, long ago, where Celine effectively basically forced me to give her a chance to pursue a relationship with me by showing her serious affection one time due to her extremely shady, devious behavior in response to my pursuit of Kimmy that would have made it seem like I'm either not that physically attracted to Kimmy or simply trying to hurt Celine's feelings if I didn't give Celine a chance to eagerly embrace entering into a relationship with me. Celine put me in an extremely difficult spot where her behavior was so devious it seemed to me like it even somehow for some extremely strange reason went as far as if to suggest I was intentionally denying some kind of feelings for Celine to cause chaos in Kimmy's life or something like that. Because I didn't want Kimmy to feel like I was dishonest about how arousing Kimmy's body is to me, and I didn't want Celine to keep getting in the way of my pursuit of Kimmy by trying to act like I was just trying to hurt people's feelings or something. I gave Celine that chance she seemed to want so badly. Then she proceeded to immediately underhandedly publicly make a complete mockery of my approach and basically flaunted that she was just trying to play hot and cold mind games and waste my time and energy and never actually cared about having a genuine, deep, or actually pleasant connection with me. At which point I saw that and immediately withdrew emotionally from her completely and went right back to my pursuit of Kimmy, just like I'd thought would likely end up happening. It was really unbelievable to me how Celine's immediate reaction was straight up, disgustingly, blatantly flaunting that she was just trying to hurt my feelings and make my life difficult and sabotage my pursuit of Kimmy, yet people acted like her behavior was justified. I was left simply with even more blatantly damning evidence that Celine and those she surrounds herself with are all massive pieces of garbage since nobody was communicating anything to me directly and all I saw with the indirect hints of things that Kimmy was doing came off like just unapologetic, relentless, existentially assaulting, abusive, emotional destabilization attempt one after the next, which everyone else was watching and simply selfishly benefiting at my expense against my consent, wishes, and best interests because of, in their own ways, with complete disregard for the extent of negative impact it'd have on my life. There was no kind of reaction from me that I saw that made any real sense to me at that point, since just raging at Kimmy and others for being massive pieces of garbage was futile and clearly would only make me look mentally unstable, and Celine was clearly involved in something I didn't even understand, which somehow made her feel justified in such exceedingly cruel and disgustingly psychopathic, narcissistic behavior towards me. So it was at that point that I decided to just start silently observing to see what would happen. And that's the period of time where I encountered multiple extremely brutal near-death experiences in real life, and where within less than 2 months, I witnessed people literally criminally faking my death in real life. That was right around the time Kimmy extremely strangely happened to post on her Discord server that she was finally at peace with her past. And then Kimmy and Celine started frequently doing sponsor deals together and acting extremely strange, like they were working towards starting to officially date each other or something, as if that was something I was working towards or that benefited me somehow or something, when that literally couldn't be further from the truth. Since it's come to this, I want to make it extremely clear that I do not, have never, and will never tolerate or validate Kimmy and Celine dating, officially or unofficially, or being friends with benefits in any capacity, especially after seeing how they clearly demonstrated a conspiracy against me to literally end my life in real life to try to facilitate them being together. I see reason to believe they might have already been friends with benefits and possibly even unofficially dated in the past and might even be doing so secretly currently. But that's effectively nothing more than speculation, and it really doesn't change my position regardless. If they're currently secretly dating or somehow seriously romantically and or sexually involved, they need to break up and completely stop whatever such things it is they're doing with each other immediately, and never get back together or start up whatever it was they were doing together in these regards ever again. I'm absolutely, thoroughly, extremely against Kimmy ever having or maintaining any kind of romantic or sexual involvement with anyone other than me, not just with Celine. But mentioning the connection between these two specifically is something that I feel is especially necessary to explicitly mention given what I've endured personally because of whatever it is they're involved in together. I've already described my position on discrimination based on arbitrary criteria very in depth in this podcast on the release called Discrimination, so it should be abundantly clear that this is not any kind of inherent discrimination against lesbians. Like I said, I myself identify as lesbian, and I certainly don't hate or discriminate against myself. And ultimately, in regards to the connection between these two women, specifically, it doesn't matter even if you don't accept my identity as lesbian because I'm transgendered either. It's not like I'm trying to hide behind it like a shield or something. This is a matter of me wanting and needing it to be extremely clear to the world the reality that I am not, never was, and never will be at all desiring of, willing to, or benefiting at all in any way, shape, or form that I'd ever at all consider even remotely worthwhile from validating whatever extremely serious false narratives about me and my life that were painted behind my back that facilitated unbelievably extremely brutal disrespect, abuse, neglect, torment, suppression, and sabotage of my life for many years, and somehow led to the point where I literally almost died in real life multiple times while Kimmy and Celine seemed all too happy to pretend I'm literally dead as they went ahead with trying to officially or otherwise date or be romantically and or sexually involved to some increasingly serious extent all of a sudden, immediately after thinking I've died and am no longer able to speak truth to the extremely serious massive lies being constantly purported about me. Since I was forced to show Celine affection once in the past, and people might try to abuse that to warp it, to try to push false narratives about me, I'm just going to simply state my sincere feelings towards Celine right here and get that out of the way. Celine is extremely physically attractive to my tastes, but the reality is she just is not, never has been, and never will be as attractive as Kimmy is, always has been, and always will be to me, both physically and mentally, and spiritually too, if we're going to go there. Celine clearly looked down on me and disrespected me even more so than Kimmy ever demonstrably has, as far as I'm concerned. And Celine's personality comes off as much colder to me than Kimmy's ever has, at least certainly in terms of intimate compatibility with mine. That kind or extent of coldness is not, never has been, and never will be something I find pleasant. Certainly not ideal. I can perhaps see myself being okay with being distant, very clearly purely platonic friends without benefits with Celine, but only if I get the kind of connection I've stated on this podcast extremely clearly, repeatedly, that I want and deserve with Kimmy in a timely manner. Otherwise, I absolutely unconditionally have an extremely serious issue with Celine as well, as I'd go down the extremely dark path in life that only gives me further extremely good reason to antagonize all of her associates for likely, rather knowingly facilitating what she put me through for her own selfish gain, clearly, completely, unjustly. Janet's involvement in all this is much less obvious in nature, but from what I can tell, it seems she was constantly stirring drama and ensuring there was chaos in the situation that somehow left constant room for doubt and uncertainty in regards to who I really am and what I'm really doing. Likely by facilitating and also likely actively participating in purporting some strange situation where it would seem as if I'm pursuing her, or intentionally perhaps alternating between showing affection towards or somehow pursuing all three of these women, or basically a situation where Janet essentially served to allow what was really happening to me behind the scenes to remain extremely deviously hidden from me, since otherwise Celine having to more clearly show interest in me get blatantly rejected by me, as she did many times before she extremely deviously forced me to show her affection, to call her bluff, and then me clearly showing complete lack of any real desire, need, or interest in at all pursuing her, and instead just fully continuing to demonstrate my integrity in my feelings for Kimmy, would just immediately expose Celine as an extremely unhinged, toxic, narcissistic liar trying to sabotage my connection with Kimmy for whatever various reasons Celine might have been doing so. Instead, what I witnessed was Celine somehow extremely deviously constantly getting in my way and somehow managing to abusively justify denying me of Kimmy. Then, Celine brutally making a mockery of my calling her bluff about having feelings for me I intuitively knew it made no real sense to believe she was genuine about or seriously capable of pursuing with her lifestyle. Then, Kimmy trying to warp the narrative of why I'd be publicly posting an archive of my emails to my mailing list online on my website in a platform update, somehow making me seem like the problem in the situation, as she tried to extremely strangely put immense significance on her suddenly deciding she cares about stopping eating meat, and supposedly decided to go pescatarian the whole nearly 2 months I almost died multiple times in real life. Then, Kimmy randomly saying it was just a phase, and going back to eating normally while people tried faking my death, and Kimmy and Celine tried to steamroll over my soul as they somehow justified trying to start officially dating as if it was something I wanted or deserved to have to facilitate, happening entirely at my expense against my consent. Once again, I really don't care to argue or speculate on the reason for either Celine or Janet's involvement, nor try to pressure them for an explanation or apology. It just matters that I know they were involved in a conspiracy to murder me, and now, armed with that knowledge increasingly clearly, what I'm going to do about it. So Janet's life is likely also going to ultimately end up getting extremely brutally completely destroyed if Kimmy pushes me down the extremely dark path with continued lack of proper communication and embrace of the connection Kimmy should have wanted with me all along. Since it's now been given such strange, devious, immense seeming significance and indication of relation to extremely serious false narratives about me, I find it pertinent to explicitly state that I don't care what anyone wears in any video game, whether it at all involves role-playing or not. I never have, and I'm quite certain I never will. At least certainly if I'm not getting the relationship with Kimmy I'm after in a timely manner. All these other kinds of things to me just become petty, stupid garbage that only attempts to purport false narratives about me entirely at my expense against my consent, and effectively are just irritating and feel like they attempt to waste my time and energy by forcing me to address what should be obvious as their irrelevancy and thorough lack of influence in my position I've extremely clearly established with this podcast. From what I can tell, it seems these three women, Kimmy, Celine, and Janet, have been involved in some kind of contract, pact, oath, or deal of some kind that they have going on in this attempted sacrifice of me. Given how Kimmy's extremely strangely literally threatened to sue me in the past, which I provided evidence of and thoroughly meticulously addressed in the released illegal battle, it seems pretty much certain that they either themselves criminally fabricated or somehow got their hands on forged illegal contracts someone else criminally impersonated me as if to pose my agreement to, in reality entirely without my knowledge or consent, that basically ultimately stripped me of my soul for some supposed benefit that in reality I don't actually want or have to tolerate accepting in exchange for anything. They're likely operating based on at least one illegal contract, possibly multiple, all of which I've literally never even seen before in my life, much less at all agreed to. They tried to manipulate and pressure me into feeling forced or baited into joining the NoPixel Grand Theft Auto role-playing server, so I would unknowingly validate such illegal contracts I'm still to this day unaware of the details of the terms of, and then they could act like I knew and intentionally was doing it to follow through on my supposed obligations as per contract, effectively forcefully robbing me of my soul. It seems the existence of this podcast and the YouTube channel I post the releases of it on was also being misrepresented as if to be intended to be or ultimately get turned into something to solidify my actions in that regard. In reality, it was a massive trap, since I'm not even remotely friends with or on at all good terms with any of these people, and I've literally never even once received direct communication from Celine or Janet ever, and haven't from Kimmy in over 6 years, there isn't even any real room for any kind of actual negotiation either. It's straight up bullying, coercion, and manipulation from them to try to force me into some kind of pathetic submission. The contract or contracts in question likely ultimately facilitate the narrative warping these individuals were doing about me behind my back to lead to a situation where I'm alienated, isolated, sabotaged, and ultimately effectively have my existence or influence more or less entirely negated, leaving me at best desperately struggling to maintain any shred of relevancy if even possible, if I even can manage to avoid setups to get murdered in real life that they were probably involved in attempting and conspiring and planning to continue to attempt further. Effectively, it would have been robbing me of my soul and making all these years of effort I've poured my heart and soul into a healthy, meaningful connection with Kimmy all for nothing. Meaning it's nothing short of a death trap regardless, basically. The last over 7 years of my life, I've sacrificed so much, and I'm left literally homeless and eating out of trash cans to this day, and they would have robbed me completely of any real benefit for enduring it all. And on top of that, my reputation sabotaged and my career prospects I'd been working extremely hard since childhood to build a skill set to achieve greatness in, completely ruined. They were clearly planning on leaving me literally homeless and eating out of trash cans, intolerably miserable, depressed, emotionally dysregulated, and alone, out on the streets, left to die after everything good I've done for so many people, completely undeservedly, while they endlessly steal all the benefits of all my work as they deviously lie about everything and likely effectively pretend to be me as they impersonate my energy, because they're that selfish and fake of narcissistic psychopaths. Beyond the false narratives about some notion that this podcast or anything else I'm doing is any kind of build-up to selling out or ultimately having to submit to being forcefully robbed of my soul through somehow joining Grand Theft Auto role-playing on NoPixel, likely specifically in relation to some kind of follow-through on what I'm extremely clearly stating in reality is a literally illegal, criminally created or obtained contract or contracts I've never even seen before in my life, much less agreed to or would ever even consider agreeing to ever. It seems there are already additional false narratives now being presented that the reason I'm putting up so much resistance to embracing the false narratives around such real-life criminal activity that attempts to rob me of my soul through Grand Theft Auto role-playing is that I see the death trap setup that Kimmy, Selena, and Janet attempted to bait me into, and since I'm obviously too smart and powerful to ever fall into that trap, my efforts have some kind of ulterior motive to sell my soul through some kind of negotiation. Specifically, it seems there are false narratives that I'm interested in some kind of negotiation of some other way of me getting attention through playing some different video game with people, presumably under some kind of process of negotiating, whether through lying that I'll start criminally impersonating people, or through some expectation of me being bullied into feeling desperate or something and ultimately compromising my integrity in this podcast and just trying to play it off like it should be understandable or something. As if I was just saying things because I know what to say and I was forcing myself to be too serious or something, instead of because it's actually really genuinely who I am and will forever be. Since Kimmy extremely strangely mentioned playing Valorant on her last live stream, and even more strangely opened it, then abruptly ended stream with no explanation after having also started the stream saying that it was a typo that Valorant was even in her stream title, the most prominent of such false narratives currently specifically seems to revolve around Valorant. So I find it pertinent to state that I've actually never played Valorant in my life, and I have no particular desire or intent to ever start. I also don't and never did care who else might or might not play Valorant, or to what extent, or with who. But I'm sure people will then, and likely already have even started, creating false narratives about me in relation to other video games. So I should just address that topic more broadly as well. I genuinely don't care who plays what video games or when or why or with who. I never have. I'm not interested in trying to control that at all. If people genuinely want to play the product I eventually come out with because they genuinely enjoy it, then that's good. But I have no desire or intent whatsoever to try to manipulate or force people. I never have. And I have absolutely unconditionally no desire, intent, or willingness to even attempt to negotiate any kind of selling out to get to play video games with other people or get attention at the expense of my integrity to any extent in any way, shape, or form, even beyond just any connection to video games. I'm absolutely serious that I'm even going to go out of my way to permanently ban Kimmy and anyone associated with her from any product I ever create, absolutely unconditionally, if I don't get the relationship with Kimmy that I want and deserve in a timely manner. And I don't really care for following anyone to simply watch them play video games for entertainment when I'm literally homeless and eating out of trash cans to survive and need to put all my time and energy into my work to get out of these extremely brutal circumstances I've been extremely brutally abused, slandered, and neglected into being stuck in. So I really don't have any good reason to ever care in the future what video games anyone plays in their content. Regardless of whether or not it's on some video game or product I create or am involved somehow in the creation or improvement of, I also don't care about playing video games with anyone in particular in general for any reason. So I don't really care what video games they play outside of content creation either. That being said, I'm not entirely closed off to playing video games with people if I get the relationship I want with Kimmy in a timely manner first, just so we're completely clear. This isn't some condescending, passive-aggressive, absolutely unconditionally extremely hateful statement. I'm just making sure my position on this matter and how absolutely unconditionally, unwaveringly firm it is and will always be is extremely clear in all regards. Beyond that, after seeing how it seems people have been warping what I mean when I talk about disrespecting and neglecting me, I find it pertinent to mention that I don't particularly care about getting anyone on this podcast. I would never pay anything to anyone to get anyone on it. It doesn't matter if the money goes to charity or what else it might go to. In fact, even if people tried offering me money or any other incentives, I'd absolutely, unconditionally, explicitly, specifically go out of my way to deny anyone else appearing on my podcast ever unless I get the connection with Kimmy that I want and deserve in a timely manner. In which case, I suppose it only makes sense she'd be the first guest I'd have on it. And I'm obviously not going to pay her anything or expect any kind of payment from her for that. When I talk about disrespect and neglect from others, I'm largely talking about people pushing Kimmy to feel insecure or too good to treat me fairly and respectfully and lovingly. I'm talking about people facilitating or participating in the perpetuation of extremely serious false narratives about me that lead to me being continually denied of the connection with Kimmy that I want and deserve in a timely manner before I seriously go down the extremely dark path in life. I'm not trying to get people to extremely shadily try to offer me opportunities to play video games with them or try to incentivize them to appear on my podcast. It wouldn't matter even if they weren't doing it in an extremely shady or strange way. And as far as nobody trusting me because I'm not fake, I genuinely don't care if nobody trusts me. You have to respect me increasingly, regardless, the more I objectively demonstrate proof I'm deserving of it. And that's good enough for me. Even Kimmy doesn't have to trust me at all, depending on how you define trust. If you consider trust to mean blindly believing in someone to have good intentions towards you or be honest with you, then good. Don't trust me. I don't want or need that burden. Based on that definition, I myself don't and won't ever again trust anyone. Absolutely, unconditionally. Literally no matter what. Even if Kimmy is wonderful to me. I already knew that before I even knew Kimmy exists. So it only makes things easier for me if nobody trusts me. They can't be so surprised or act hurt or something when I don't trust them at all like that either. I don't need to trust Kimmy like that to love her and be with her, and she doesn't need to trust me like that to love me and be with me. Yet another reason why I will never even remotely consider being with anyone else. Most people expect that stupid trust from you, or they expect to get to treat you coldly as if you enjoy that if you're unwilling. I know my dynamic with Kimmy is different, and I very much like and value that a lot. It really shouldn't be confusing or surprising to people why I'd pick Kimmy over anyone else, even if I had many options of people I could be with. I find her considerably more physically attractive than anyone else, and that's been completely consistently how I've felt about her from the very beginning. I consider the emotional connection we share extremely valuable and irreplaceable to me. And while anyone might possibly try to harm me, I at least feel like I know Kimmy much better than I know anyone else I have in my life in any capacity. I really don't feel like I need more reasons. While she's hurt me a lot, I choose to believe that even if she meant it in a lot of ways, it was because she's been hurt a lot herself. Misguided and manipulated into believing I'm, to at least some significant extent, someone I'm really not, and that's why she did what she did. I feel like if she really gave things a chance between us, she'd be really pleasantly surprised to see we'd get along a lot better than she might think. That being said, I want it to be extremely clear that I understand very well I'm being extremely graceful, warm, loving, understanding, and sensitive towards Kimmy to be willing and desiring of seeing her in such a positive light despite the circumstances. If she continues to act confused, she isn't confused. She's weaponizing confusion. Narcissists, or perhaps I should say toxic manipulators in general, do that to avoid accountability for their wrongdoings. It's a manipulation tactic, a distraction to confuse you and keep you stuck. I'm not stupid not to be well aware of that after all the extremely toxic, horrible people I've had the extreme misfortune and displeasure of encountering throughout my lifetime. I'm well aware that I've already now went exceedingly abundantly above and beyond to show how much of an open, honest, loving, generous, patient, understanding, sensitive, independent, capable individual I am. Over the years I've known her, I've constantly been extremely consistently giving Kimmy so much attention and love and showing so much willingness to communicate and embrace a healthy level of compromise within firm boundaries it should be plenty understandable to Kimmy the presence of and reasoning for. There's just no way she actually doesn't recognize this extremely clearly by now. Yes, I remain extremely firm on the fact that Kimmy absolutely unconditionally must promptly get an abortion no matter what if she's pregnant right now, and she shouldn't even be thinking of ever getting pregnant with anyone. But even after everything she's put me through, I'm still willing to even leave the country I was born in and lived my whole life in to go move to hers and let her stay in the environment she's familiar with that has her friends and family and the most business opportunities for her and whatever else is there for her. There's nothing else really there for me that I care for in Los Angeles or even the United States in general. Literally just being with Kimmy. Like I've said, I could be running an extremely successful business already if I'd put even a fraction of the time and energy I have into loving Kimmy into running my own business instead. I'm literally homeless and eating out of trash cans right now instead of chilling in luxury in a nice place with all kinds of nice material things, and yet I'm still so extremely meticulously trying to be understanding and patient to reach the core of the issues that keep all this toxicity in my connection with Kimmy going. The amount of stress and emotional dysregulation I have to endure overcoming on a daily basis while experiencing the hellish nightmare of dealing with all this toxicity is beyond what I can put into words. It's extremely painful, to say the least. I'm pretty sure the overwhelming vast majority of people would develop serious mental illness or just straight up lose their mind trying to endure even a fraction of this. It'd destroy their life. And I can't imagine those among the most serious of perpetrators inflicting this on me aren't extremely well aware of that. If Kimmy's still going to somehow claim she's confused or worried or unsure of the direction she wants to take our connection, or going back and forth on whether or not she feels confident in or about me, or somehow feels oblivious to what I'm looking for and want, despite what I've already so extremely clearly explained and objectively proven so extremely thoroughly, let's put it this way. Who's benefiting from that situation? Because it certainly isn't me. At all. If Kimmy's still confused about her options being either promptly beginning to treat me how I want and deserve, or once and for all accepting she's fully consciously and intentionally publicly admitting she's an extremely predatory, narcissistic, absolute psychopath, maniac that was always completely the problem in this conflict she's caused with me, she doesn't deserve a chance to try to delay things and keep me in this perpetual sheer hellish nightmare while she's supposedly trying to choose. I'm not giving her a choice to try to mess around with picking between me or someone or something else. And I'm certainly not pathetically begging her for mercy or anything else. I'm extremely clearly, seriously informing the world of how extremely desperately Kimmy is in need of finding the strength or clarity of mind or whatever it is that she feels she lacks in order to promptly begin directly communicating with me and reach out to me to extremely seriously start extremely clearly pursuing the kind of relationship I've been saying I want and deserve to have with her. What I have to offer Kimmy is clearly plenty adequately in plain sight already, and it's clearly a lot, more than anyone else in her life can ever give her. in so many ways. If she's still going to act like she doesn't see that, or for some reason can't or doesn't want to promptly start embracing it wholeheartedly with genuine joy and love and respect towards me, then it's also already in plain sight the fact that she prioritizes giving absolutely nothing back to me in return except the hellish nightmare of pain and suffering she's extremely well aware I never wanted, needed, or deserved at all. It becomes ridiculously obvious that she's fully consciously and intentionally purposely trying to keep me stuck and hurting and in the dark, so I don't fully see the extent of how badly she's been harming my life, while my existence and efforts continue to create support and balance for her. Through her extreme abuse of me, she would have extremely painfully clearly proven she's ridiculously, exceedingly, unacceptably unwilling to mature past. Finally, I want to make sure I've really made myself abundantly clear here. Once again, I absolutely mean everything I'm saying extremely clearly with no indecisiveness or hidden messages or alternative meanings or ulterior motives. I'm not trying to have any kind of harm brought to Kimmy if she actually has warm feelings towards me and serious desire, intent, willingness, and capability to act decisively upon them in a timely manner to the extent necessary. Even if she doesn't, regardless of whether or not any kind of harm is inflicted on her at any point in time, it doesn't ever change my position. If she won't be with me properly in a timely manner, even if she were to unalive herself or get unalived somehow in real life at any point in time, I'll still just be going down the extremely dark path absolutely unconditionally.